Installing a ground fault circuit interrupter, commonly called a GFCI, receptacle requires careful consideration, especially when dealing with existing structures. Cutting into concrete block, particularly when it belongs to someone else, is generally not recommended without explicit permission. Firstly, altering the structural integrity of a building, even seemingly minor alterations, can have unforeseen consequences. Concrete block walls are designed to bear loads and distribute stress. Cutting into them can weaken the structure, potentially leading to cracks, instability, or even collapse in severe cases. Secondly, damaging someone else's property without their consent can lead to legal issues and financial liabilities. The cost of repairing the damage you cause could be significant, especially if it affects the structural integrity of the building. Thirdly, there are alternative methods for installing a GFCI receptacle that avoid the need to cut into concrete. One option is to surface mount the GFCI receptacle. This involves using a weatherproof junction box and mounting hardware to attach the receptacle to the surface of the wall. The wiring can be run through conduit, protecting it from damage and weather exposure. This method is less intrusive and avoids the risk of damaging the concrete block. Another option is to use an existing outlet. If there's an existing outlet nearby, you can tap into its circuit and add a GFCI receptacle. However, it's important to ensure that the existing circuit can handle the additional load. Consult with a qualified electrician to determine the appropriate wiring size and breaker amperage for the combined load. If neither of these options is feasible, you can contact the garage owner and request permission to install the GFCI receptacle in the concrete block. Explain the situation clearly and assure them that you'll take precautions to minimize damage. They may be willing to grant permission if you're willing to compensate them for any potential damage. If all else fails, you may need to consider using a different location for the GFCI receptacle. This may involve running wire into a different part of the garage or installing the receptacle in an adjacent structure. Alternatively, you can consult with a qualified electrician for further guidance. They can assess the situation and recommend the best course of action based on your specific needs and circumstances. When working with electricity, it's crucial to prioritize safety. Always turn off the power to the circuit before working on any electrical components. Use appropriate safety gear, such as insulated gloves and eye protection. If you're not comfortable working with electricity, hire a qualified electrician to do the job. An electrician will be able to assess the situation, determine the best way to install the GFCI receptacle, and ensure that the work is done safely and in accordance with local electrical codes. In general, it's always best to err on the side of caution when it comes to electrical work. If you're not sure what you're doing, seek professional help. Electrical mistakes can be dangerous and costly. Remember that GFCI receptacles are designed to protect people from electrical shock. They work by monitoring the flow of current in a circuit and tripping the circuit if they detect a ground fault. Ground faults occur when electricity flows through an unintended path, such as through a person's body. GFCI receptacles are particularly important in areas where there's a risk of water exposure, such as bathrooms, kitchens, and garages. In these areas, the risk of electrical shock is higher. When installing a GFCI receptacle, be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. The instructions will provide detailed information on how to wire the receptacle and test its functionality. Always test the GFCI receptacle after installation to ensure that it's working properly. To test the receptacle, press the test button. This should trip the circuit and cut off power to the receptacle. To reset the receptacle, press the reset button. If the receptacle doesn't trip when you press the test button, or if it doesn't reset when you press the reset button, there may be a problem with the wiring of the receptacle itself. In this case, consult with a qualified electrician. Also, keep in mind local and national electrical codes. Article 210.8 of the National Electrical Code, also known as NEC, covers GFCI protection requirements. It's also crucial to understand that the NEC is updated regularly, so it's important to consult the latest edition for the most current requirements. Firstly, all 125-volt, 15 amp and 20 amp receptacles installed in garages and accessory buildings at or below grade level must have GFCI protection for personnel. Secondly, this requirement applies to all receptacles, including those used for specific equipment such as refrigerators or freezers. Thirdly, GFCI protection can be provided by a GFCI receptacle or a GFCI circuit breaker. A GFCI receptacle is installed in place of a standard receptacle and provides GFCI protection only at that location. A GFCI circuit breaker is installed in the electrical panel and provides GFCI protection for the entire circuit. If you are unsure about whether a receptacle requires GFCI protection, consult with a qualified electrician. If you decide to install a GFCI receptacle yourself, be sure to follow the manufacturer's instructions carefully. Improper installation can result in the GFCI receptacle not working properly or creating a safety hazard. In addition to GFCI protection, it is also important to ensure that the wiring in your garage is properly grounded. Grounding provides a path for fault current to flow back to the electrical panel, which helps to protect against electrical shock. The grounding conductor should be connected to the grounding terminal on the receptacle and to the grounding bus bar in the electrical panel. If you are unsure about how to properly ground your wiring, consult with a qualified electrician. Another important safety consideration is the use of arc fault circuit interrupters, or FSIs. FSIs are designed to protect against fires caused by arcing faults. Arcing faults occur when electricity jumps from one conductor to another, creating heat that can ignite nearby materials. FSIs are required in many areas of the home, including bedrooms, living rooms, and dining rooms. While FSIs are not typically required in garages, it is still a good idea to consider installing them, especially if you use the garage for woodworking or other activities that can generate flammable dust. When choosing a GFCI receptacle, it is important to select one that is rated for outdoor use if it will be exposed to the elements. Outdoor GFCI receptacles are designed to withstand moisture and other environmental factors. They typically have a weatherproof cover that protects the receptacle from rain and snow. It is also important to choose a GFCI receptacle that is rated for the amperage of the circuit. The amperage rating is printed on the receptacle. Do not use a GFCI receptacle with a lower amperage rating than the circuit it will be installed on. This can overload the receptacle and create a fire hazard. When wiring a GFCI receptacle, it is important to connect the wires to the correct terminals. The terminals are labeled with the words line and load. The line wires are the wires that come from the electrical panel. The load wires are the wires that go to the other receptacles or devices on the circuit. Connect the line wires to the line terminals and the load wires to the load terminals. If you are unsure about which wires are the line wires and which are the load wires, consult with a qualified electrician. After wiring the GFCI receptacle, test it to make sure it is working properly. To test the receptacle, plug a lamp or other device into the receptacle and turn it on. Then press the test button on the receptacle. The receptacle should trip and the lamp or device should turn off. If the receptacle does not trip, there is a problem with the wiring or the receptacle itself. In this case, consult with a qualified electrician. To reset the receptacle, press the reset button. The lamp or device should turn back on. In addition to these safety considerations, it is also important to follow all local electrical codes. Electrical codes vary from place to place, so it is important to check with your local building department to find out what the requirements are in your area. Following all local electrical codes will help to ensure that your electrical work is safe and up to code. When planning your GFCI receptacle installation, consider the placement of the receptacle. It should be located in a convenient location where it is easy to access. It should also be located away from any sources of water, such as sinks or hoses. If you are installing the GFCI receptacle outdoors, it should be located in a sheltered location where it is protected from the elements. When installing a GFCI receptacle in a garage, it is important to consider the potential for the receptacle to be damaged by vehicles or other equipment. If the receptacle is located in a high-traffic area, it may be necessary to install a protective cover over it. Protective covers are available at most hardware stores. When installing a GFCI receptacle, it is also important to consider the aesthetic appearance of the receptacle. GFCI receptacles are available in a variety of colors and styles. Choose a receptacle that complements the decor of your garage. The use of appropriate tools and materials is crucial for safe and successful GFCI receptacle installation. Firstly, ensure you have insulated screwdrivers to prevent electrical shock. Secondly, wire strippers are essential for removing insulation without damaging the wire. Thirdly, electrical tape is needed for insulating connections and preventing shorts. Fourthly, a voltage tester is crucial for verifying that the power is off before working on any electrical components. Fifthly, use the correct size and type of wire connectors for making secure and reliable connections. Sixthly, always use UL-listed products to ensure they meet safety standards. Seventhly, wear safety glasses to protect your eyes from debris. Eighthly, use a level to ensure the receptacle is installed straight. Ninthly, use a stud finder to locate studs for secure mounting of the junction box. Tenthly, refer to the NEC for proper wiring methods and safety guidelines. Remember, when in doubt, consult with a qualified electrician. They have the knowledge and experience to handle electrical work safely and correctly. A final note on GFCI maintenance. Regularly test GFCI receptacles to ensure they are functioning properly. The test button should trip the receptacle, cutting off power. If the GFCI fails to trip, it should be replaced immediately. GFCI receptacles have a limited lifespan, typically around 10 years. Replacing GFCI receptacles every 10 years is a good preventative measure to ensure continued protection. By following these guidelines, you can safely install and maintain GFCI receptacles in your garage, protecting yourself and your family from electrical shock. Remember, electrical safety is paramount, and consulting with a qualified electrician is always recommended when you're unsure about any aspect of electrical work.